This is The Busy Type, unfiltered conversations about all things life and business. We talk about the wins, the fails, and everything in between. So settle in, it's time to get busy. Hey guys, I'm Ronique Barber. I'm your host, and I'm the founder of Virtual Favor, a copywriting studio, as well as Lazy Face Skincare, a vegan skincare line. So, this is my first episode officially, and I guess I'm a little bit nervous. I don't know why. I've wanted to start a podcast since 2016, and I was always waiting for, co-host, basically. I was waiting for co-host and trying to find people who were interested in doing the same thing that I wanted to do, and I guess the best co-host was myself. So I am just going to be a solo person here. Occasionally we'll have interviews, but for the most part, it'll just be me sharing all my tips, just like I said in the intro, talking about my wins, my fails, kind of everything about running a business, especially on your own. So thanks for tuning in. Please remember to subscribe, rate, review, all those cool things, just to kind of help keep this podcast going. So today, on our first podcast episode, hopefully you listened to the trailer. It was a little awkward. I think it was a little awkward. Let me know what you think. But today, the first thing that we're going to really jump into is how to start a business. How do you even start a business? And the best way that I can share that with you is with my own experience. So I'll go way back. I'll start in the beginning with childhood for me. I've always had a somewhat entrepreneurial spirit. I grew up wanting to be a doctor. It started out wanting to be a pediatrician, then that kind of transitioned to wanting to be a cardiothoracic surgeon. So that was always where my views were. I loved performing, and I always secretly wanted to act or sing, dance. Any sort of performing and storytelling was something that I was just always drawn to. But while I wanted to do all of those things, and I genuinely thought that those were things that I would pursue in my adult life, I, at like 5 years old, started a business, which is a little unusual, I guess. I think most kids start a lemonade stand, but I really wanted to do something different, I guess. It just kind of came natural to me. I started a jewelry business as a little kid. Can you imagine? A young child making jewelry and selling it. But I did. I would make jewelry with like yarn and beads. It was not the prettiest jewelry, I would say, looking back. As I got older and would pick it up again, I would get like better jewels. But in the beginning, I remember it was called Fantasy Jewels, and I even got on our old school computer and I made up a template. Well, I think there was already a template in Word or something for business cards. So I made up my own little business cards and printed those out, and they were like flimsy on like regular printer paper, so that's pretty funny. But I would go door to door in my neighborhood with all the people, that knew me and my family. And I would go between my house, like my family growing up, my house, my aunt's house, and my grandma's house. They were all like around the block from each other, so in like a triangle shape. So everyone in that neighborhood I would know, and I would ride my little bike or walk and knock on all the doors, and it was like mostly elderly people. And I would ask them, did they want to buy my jewelry? And I'd be like, oh, a bracelet's 25 cents, a necklace is 50 cents. And I would sell out. So it's funny now to think, because I can't imagine going door to door doing sales, but that's just what I did. I didn't do it, it's not like I did it every day like a professional saleswoman, but it was something that I would do when I was bored and when I wanted something to do. I'm an only child, so when I had free time on summer break or spring break and I felt like doing something, that's what I would do. But I took it really seriously when I did it. Like, people would try to negotiate rates with me. I wouldn't budge. I would be like, no, this is 25 cents. It can't be 10 cents. But then occasionally I'd be like, oh, well, we're running a special today, if I noticed any hesitation. So that's kind of the early days of me running my own show and like doing my own thing. And like I said, I grew up always thinking that I would work for someone because of the career paths that I had chosen. So it always began with me thinking that I would work for someone, but feeling inside myself like I really wanted to make my own rules and call my own shots. So obviously I couldn't do that forever. I couldn't sell jewelry forever. But flash forward a bunch of years, about 20 years. I was 25 years old in 2016, and I had just I just had a really bad breakup, and I just was having kind of a rough, 6 months. My grandmother had passed away. My dog had passed away. I had had some family issues, some roommate issues. That breakup, it was just all very traumatic, and all at the same time I was diagnosed with a progressive eye disease, so it was just a lot going on at the time. And I worked at an elementary school, and I worked as an office manager there. And at the elementary school, I had been struggling with my vision, and I'll talk to you guys about this, I'm sure, at some point in a different episode, but I had been struggling with my vision. It was very difficult to see at work. And then with everything else going on, it became very difficult to focus. And that's not something I've ever really struggled with. I guess I've always been good at compartmentalizing things. So if I had had a fight with a family member or a friend or a boyfriend, I never had an issue going to work or school and just kind of focusing on that. Even back when I was in high school, if I had a fight with a boy, I could go to school and take a test, and it could be a final exam and it wouldn't faze me. I've never had an issue with separating things, but in that time, I think it was just overload. I call it my quarter life crisis, because honestly, you guys, I was running around like a crazy woman, a crazy person running through the streets, just mad. Anyone who knew me at the time was wow, there's something wrong with her, but we don't know how to handle it. Anyway, so it was very difficult for me to focus at work, and it was becoming increasingly more difficult for me to see, and my entire job was on a computer. And for the longest time, it was essentially it was very difficult. Everything was difficult. That's all I can say. So I have anxiety, and at that time I really realized how bad my anxiety was. I really couldn't function. It was kind of getting up every day, waking up, shaking, crying, and running to the bathroom to vomit. That's what my daily life was like. And every single day I would think that I was going to be able to make it into work, and every single day I would have an extreme panic attack and could not make it into work. This happened for a couple of months. I mean, there were days that I made it, there were days that I didn't make it. But obviously you can't miss that much work, especially when you're the person who does the payroll and makes sure everything's supposed to be running smoothly in the office. So I essentially took a leave of absence from work. And we had summer break. First, because I worked at an elementary school, obviously we had summer break. So once summer break rolled around and I was off, I was just I have to figure out something to do. I have to figure out something that I can do so I'm never in this position anymore. I have to work for myself. So I love skincare. I've always loved skincare. Since I was a kid, it's been a huge part of my life because I grew up with eczema. And as a teenager, I found out I had psoriasis. So I've always had crazy skin issues, very sensitive, very irritated, always in a rash kind of a skin. So for me, taking care of skin was second nature. It was just hygiene to me, and it still is. But what I've always noticed is that everyone was not taking care of their skin. So that was always kind of my mission. If I was known for anything with friends, it was oh yeah, use this lotion, use this cleanser, this will help you, here's this home remedy. That's just always been my thing. That's what I've told boys. I try to, all my boyfriends, I've always done face mask on them. So for me, that was kind of like my immediate, like, this is what I'm supposed to do. It's a light bulb moment. So I started working on building a natural skincare line. For me, obviously, I knew toxins were out, chemicals were out. That was something that I had already started weaning out of my own body care, skincare regimen, as well as food and everything else. But I started just getting rid of all of the toxins and figuring out ways that I can make products on my own. And that translated into a small batch line of vegan skincare. So I started that out, and it was originally called Swear Skincare. Kind of like the tagline was like skincare that you can swear by. And the entire message with that company was basically like making a commitment to your skin. Like you have to commit to a routine, commit to products, commit to a lifestyle, a natural, healthy, clean beauty lifestyle. And to me, that made sense because that's how I was. I could commit to a routine, I could commit to products, I could commit to like the well-being of my skin. But something that I didn't really notice was that I wasn't taking note of the market. I didn't really even think of my immediate, people in my immediate world and how they view skincare versus how I viewed skincare. Most people that I know and that I've known my entire life cannot commit to skincare in the same way that I can. They don't want to do 10 things every night. They don't want to like spend their Sundays doing a facial and doing 20 steps or like that's just not for them. Like that may be something they can do one week, but it is not something that they can do each week. So for me, that was something that I kind of had to reality check myself on. And there was a lot that I didn't know about business when I started Swear Skincare. Just nothing. I was learning as I went along, and I mean everything. Like I didn't really know how to create graphics. I didn't know like how to do media kits. I didn't know anything. I didn't know like how to create brand awareness, like how to do an email list. Literally nothing. I knew nothing. And I just Googled my way through it and signed up for like every lead magnet I saw and like how to do everything. And probably I still have like a bunch of junk email because I just signed up for everyone's email list for all the tips. I read all the blogs, but mostly I just figured it out as I went. I made so many mistakes. So many mistakes. I can't even, it was bad. But the point is that I started and I made it happen and I got some sales and it wasn't perfect, but I was so proud every step of the way because I did it. Like I put myself out there and I did it and made it happen. But I decided that there were some issues with Swear Skincare. Like I said, I didn't really tap into what people wanted. I was kind of marketing and organizing the entire brand as to what I wanted out of skincare and not what everyone else wanted. So I knew something had to change. So I kind of paused the business for a while and started figuring things out. Really started looking inward, just trying to kind of gauge like where I had went wrong. And that's what led me to create Lazy Face. Lazy Face is actually very similar to Swear Skincare. It has similar products, pretty much like the same products with same names because I like to keep that. We've added on an additional, but I loved the names to begin with, so I didn't want to change them. And I loved the products were great, and they had everything about them was what people want in the market, but I wasn't aware of how to market them. So now I've changed it for the people that I saw and the things that I saw that people actually want. Like no one wants to spend an hour at night washing their face. Like no one wants that. So like why am I telling people to commit to their skin? Like no, I need to tell you like, oh hey, these products, you can do multiple things with them. You can like essentially kill two birds with one stone. So that's what I did. So I'm sure you guys will hear a lot more about Lazy Face as you go along this journey with me, but I just kind of wanted to fill you in on where I started my very first business that wasn't as a child and kind of where that went so that you didn't just think like, oh, you just started this business, lazy face, but I didn't actually. So from there, I'm sure you guys are wondering where copywriting came from. So as I said, I have always been a storyteller. I grew up wanting to act, wanting to perform, wanting to tell stories. There's nothing that makes me cry more than an indie drama with like such a rich storyline. And I grew up writing. I actually just posted about this recently on my Instagram, that I've always been a writer, whether I wanted to call myself one or not. But the truth is I've been writing forever. I've always known that I could write. I didn't feel comfortable not writing. I as a kid, grew up, I would write poems in every class, in every study hall. I would share them around with my friends. I would write, these long, like gut-wrenching, like pain from beyond the world, like Emily Dickinson style. When I had not felt any heartache or pain. I was like 13 years old, like begging for a heartbreak. It's like, well, just wait about a decade, you'll get it. But I always wrote. I never was really a short story kind of girl. I was always like a poetry, long letters, romanticizing things. But I just loved words. I loved stories. And I really loved my own story, to be honest. I had a hard time, writing imaginatory things, except my own emotions. I could imagine with my own emotions. But I started doing freelance writing in 2015. So I was still working, before I ever started working for myself. And I started out, I became a contributor for Elite Daily. And it didn't go very far because I was busy with other things and I really wasn't focused on building anything outside of work. I don't really know what drew me to apply to be a contributor, but I did. I don't know. It was just a weird thing. I just applied and I didn't really know what was going to happen. And then like a month later, I heard back. So I published an article there. And that to me, it was like the nail. I was at that time working at a natural food store. So it had been almost like 3 years that I had been working there, and I just knew it was time to go. And it wasn't as if I wasn't like trying to get out. I was, but I had been applying for so many jobs, and just for some reason, it was just never happening. Nothing was ever happening. Like I couldn't even get an interview, and I had a great resume, so I didn't understand. And I took the time. I just never understood it. But for 3 years, I kept trying to get out of that place and I kept staying there. But now I kind of think that time served me well. It brought relationships, friendships into my life that were meant to be for a certain amount of time. So I think that's just where I was meant to spend early 20s, honestly. But when it was really getting bad for me, I wrote this article for Elite Daily. And it was just kind of about like when's the right time to leave your comfort zone job. So writing that piece really made me be like, I have to get out of here. And suddenly 2 weeks later, I was out of there and I was working in an office job. And I don't know why I thought that was going to be better, but it worked for a while, and that helped me feel a lot better and feel more content and feel like I was moving towards something. And in fact, I was, because now that I was working in front of a computer, I realized how incredibly bad my vision was getting, and that wasn't something I was going to be able to do for much longer. So it all kind of led me slowly on my way to doing it for myself. But anyways, so I started writing then, and that made me kind of just start writing other things. And my whole life, I always started blogs just throughout life. I don't know if you guys ever remember Xanga. But when I was in middle school, I had a Xanga and very like emo type and like writing out the most dramatic things. But anyway, and then when I was like 18, a freshman in college, I started another blog, and I was just always wanting to blog. But I love to set up a blog, but I couldn't commit to like the weekly writing for myself. I don't know what it was, but I just never could. So this just kind of got me, with starting up with the Elite Daily contribution, it kind of got me just randomly free writing on my own. And I just forgot how much I enjoyed it. And I also, anytime I would post anything, people always liked it. And I knew that they were going to like it. I wasn't like shocked that people were going to be like, this was so good, or like, this is such a great post, you're a really good writer. I've always known that when I wrote, it was good. Like, that's just how it was. And I guess I kind of took it for granted, and I never really thought of like, this could be a job for you. This could be something that you're great at. And I mean, everybody loves Carrie Bradshaw, right? Like, we're all like, oh, I want to be like Carrie Bradshaw, like sitting in my window writing. But I just didn't really think of it as a job for some reason. I don't know why, it never crossed my mind. But I started once we transitioned into 2016 and I'm working on the skincare. The easiest part for me was the writing. Like, I didn't know all the sales techniques and, the psychology behind it, but it just naturally was coming out pretty good. Like, it wasn't the best, but it was pretty good for someone who had no formula, who had, no idea what they were really doing as far as marketing came. But I knew the words flew out naturally. So that kind of led me through time to be like, oh, well, maybe I can do some freelance blogging. Maybe I can do this, just trying to find different things that I could do for money because I was working less because my vision sucked and there was really nothing I could do. I mean, I even was a dishwasher for a while, which sounds terrible because it's like you don't want the person that can't see you washing your dishes. But I was a dishwasher at a restaurant because I was like, I can't see so bad that like I can't see the numbers on the keyboard, or like in a dark restaurant to be a host or a server. It got really bad. So I continued to basically just write and figure things out. And I really enjoy design. And I thought that was something I was going to do, but I'm just a natural writer. And here's the thing, okay? So we get back to storytelling and emotions and me being over dramatic. I really love emotion. And when I'm not sad, I found it difficult to write. But here's the thing, okay? So copywriting is all about emotion. It's about you sparking emotion in your customers or in your clients or whatever you're writing for, whoever your audience is. It's about connecting with those people and sparking emotion in them so that they take an action. And once I figured that out, it was like gold. It was amazing to me because it's like all I want to do is think about what people think and what people feel and put that into words. And that's all I have to do as a copywriter is dig into those deep inner thoughts and put them into words. So that when they're reading someone's website, when they're reading someone's email, someone's blog, it's as though it's the voice inside their head talking to them. And for me, that comes pretty naturally. But obviously, I don't know what everyone's thinking and everyone's feeling in their head. Like, I'm not a psychic. So I have to research. But here's the thing. When I say here's the thing a lot, it's annoying. It's probably annoying you guys because it annoys me. But it keeps coming out of my mouth. But like I said, when I was telling you guys about starting Swear Skincare, I researched everything. And I had this conversation with my mom. I probably will mention my mom a lot. We're very close. But I had this conversation with my mom about how we both love to research things. And that's like our natural thing. Like, we're just constantly researching everything. And for me to kind of realize like, oh, so this is writing, tapping into thoughts and emotions, and researching, because I have to research each client's ideal customer to find out what they would be thinking, what they would be feeling, what their problems actually are, what those pain points are, in order for me to write like I'm the voice inside their head. So I have to do a lot of research, but it's basically like putting the two things that I love to do into one. So that's how I started my copywriting business, Virtual Favor. And if you're wondering why it's called Virtual Favor, it sounds a little odd. It's a weird name. I always want to change it, but it just sticks. I originally started it as a VA business because I was like, I like design, I like writing, I don't really know exactly, I'm helpful, I can help with a lot of things. I obviously have an administrative background, so I'm like, oh, I can do like office manager task. And that ended real quick, like a couple months quick, before I realized, like, no, I just want to focus on design and copywriting. And then it's like, no, I actually am just copywriting. That's like my strong suit. That's when I know what I'm doing. And I'm not confused, and I'm not like afraid that I'm a fraud most of the time. But the name Virtual Favor became because it was supposed to be a virtual assistant business. And I was like, oh, I'm virtually doing you a favor. That's all. It's nothing complex, but it still is Virtual Favor. It looks kind of cute on the logo. So yeah, that's how I started my business. My business is, I guess, that's how I started. That's what kind of drew me just to being an entrepreneur and doing business on my own. So I wanted to give you guys just like a couple of tips. That's how I started. So I wanted to give you guys a couple of tips on how to start if you have not started your own business, okay? So my first thing is to start sharing what you know now, okay? So you know something about the topic that you're getting into. Like if you want to be a health coach, like you may not be certified, but you know something about health and wellness, nutrition. That's what's drawing you to the career. So make a Facebook page, make an Instagram specifically for that business, and start sharing the tips that you do know. I'm not saying tell people like as if you're a doctor, but give advice, give tips, share help. Make sure you do like a freebie or a lead magnet, an opt-in, so that you can start growing an email list so that when you are ready to start your business, you would have provided so much free value to those people that are following you that you can say, hey, I'm launching my new coaching business, and they'll be like, maybe I want to work with her, and schedule that call. So I would definitely say just start sharing what you know now. That's the best thing that you can do just to get started. It helps get you kind of in the frame of mind of like being of service, and also helps you, to start attracting potential clients for the future. So the next thing that I would say is just, there's a quote, if you guys listen to the Skinny Confidential, Him and Her, Michael Bosstick always says, launch fast and adjust. I literally, when I heard that was such a little precious nugget to me. Just do it. Start it. Get it over with. Like rip the Band-Aid off. You have to just launch fast. Just set it up. Like when I started Swear, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know, I didn't even have my packaging, not like my packaging for the actual, products, but my shipping packaging. I didn't have any of that set up. Like I didn't know what I was doing, and I literally had an order and I was like, oh wait, what am I going to put it in? That sounds crazy and like the dumbest thing ever, and it kind of was. But that's just real life. Like you just have to launch and adjust along the way. The quicker that you get your services out there, your products out there, the quicker that people can give you feedback so that you can make it better or change what's wrong. Like there's no way for you to get feedback if you do not put something out there. So you have to just put something out there. So launch fast. That's it. I'm going to say that one fast because that's what you should do. Launch it fast. So the next thing that I would say is to research. Like I said, I love research, but avoid overconsumption. Okay? So you want to research competitors and your potential market. You want to research, people that are like you, people that are different than you. What types of things do they say on their website? What type of services are they offering? But you don't want to overconsume so that you lose your own voice. It's so important to keep your own authentic voice. And I know we're in this age of like authenticity and social media and like, oh, everyone just be authentic, be true to yourself. Like obviously we're all authentic because like what else can you really be? Especially if you're like repeatedly putting out something out there, like you can't fake it for that long. But just be authentic so that, if you're consuming so many different people's things, like you're going to start talking like them. You're going to write your copy like them. You're going to post in things on Instagram that they would post. Like you need to be you, because that's how you're going to attract people. Jenna Kutcher always says like your vibe attracts your tribe. And what energy you put off is going to help you get the clients that are meant to work with you, that you mesh with, so that you don't have like a horrible experience, or, that people don't feel like they've been tricked, because maybe you can come up and craft the perfect copy and the perfect content for social media because you sound like somebody else and you're essentially mimicking them without even realizing it sometimes. But then they get on the phone with you, or they're chatting back and forth through email with you, and that's not who they signed up to work with, because that's not the same messaging that you're putting out on social media or on your website or wherever. So make sure that you're doing research, that you're aware of the market that you're getting into. It's very important. Don't skip that step. But don't overconsume, okay? Just don't take it too far. Don't go down the rabbit hole. Just do what you need to do. Take notes while you're doing it, so that you can, once your hand starts cramping up or your fingers start getting tired from the keyboard, then you've probably gone too far. So the last thing that I'm going to say, kind of is in relation to what I said, is learn to pivot and listen to your audience, okay? So you're going to get, like I said, if you're launching fast, even if you're not launching fast, whenever you do launch, but please launch fast. When you're launching, you're going to get feedback, even if it's not the type of feedback that you think, even if it's like a little comment, and you never get comments on any, like if you, let's say you're a web designer and you never get comments on like the portfolio pieces that you put up, but you always get comments on the quotes. You're going to be like, hey, people love quotes. What can I do to include that into my work? Like, should I make a shop? Like having, I don't know. This is all off the top of my head, guys, so don't take it, but don't, like, maybe you're going to create like t-shirts with slogans on them or something, because people love quotes, and that's what you're realizing. That's where your audience is directing you. Like, those are the types of things that you're going to design. Just pay close attention to the things that your audience is telling you. Not everyone's going to give you a direct, like, I hated this, or I loved this. Like, they're going to tell you in subtle ways. So pay close attention to what they're saying, and then learn to adjust to it. You have to pivot. You cannot just stay the same in your business. You just can't. You have to switch it up and make changes. And most importantly, like, if you want to be in business, you're in business for someone else. Like, you may not have an official boss, but your clients, your customers, they are your boss. So when they tell you what they want, you do it. If you want to continue to have a business, you adjust to your clients. That's it. It's simple. So those are my tips. That's my story. That's how I got here. This was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like 10 minutes less than this. So I'll wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, please be sure to follow me on Instagram at the Busy Type Podcast. That's the BIZZY Type Podcast. And you can also, if you don't feel comfortable getting on Instagram for some reason, I don't blame you. Feel free to email me at thebusytypepod@virtualfavor.com. That's the BIZZY type pod @virtualfavor.com. So that both of those things